Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats, snakes, chickens, ducks, and everything in between, my name is Max, otherwise known as the Improper Philosopher, and you're listening to the Improper Philosopher podcast. It's about, 11:52 p.m. On a Friday night, and for the first time in a while, I got bothered by something I saw on social media. And this was not political, although if you know me, it tends to typically be political things that rustle my feathers. I was scrolling through the old social media. Let me paint a picture here. My social media tends to partake in, or to be, what's the word I'm looking for? My social media tends to revolve around people I am close with, generally speaking, and political things, motorcycle things, things I directly care about. It's seldom that I have somebody on my social media that I don't know pretty well. Once upon a time, some girl from my area, who will remain anonymous for the purpose of this podcast, who happened to be in the cars, followed me on Instagram, thought nothing of it, followed her back, got on about my business. And then over, the next maybe 2 or 3 years, she certainly blew up. I believe she has roughly 25,000 followers on Instagram, something like that. And this is a local girl from my area of Maryland. I believe she's a few years younger than me. Anyways, generally, like I said, I tend to not follow or engage with people who I don't know or have, not met in person at the very least. But for some reason, she kind of stuck around. She always had interesting posts and funny captions, and she's attractive, so there's that. But I digress. I stumbled across a picture that she had posted in her story. You'll have to forgive me. I'm making tea at the moment. 1 second. Okay. She posted a picture on her story, and I just took some basic cliff notes here. So, I was looking at this and thinking about it, and I think we've all encountered social media posts that are clearly attention-seeking. You get somebody who posts on Facebook, "I had the worst day ever," and somebody comments and says, "You want to talk about it?" And they're like, "No." It's like, well, fucking yeah, you do. That's why you posted it on social media. But anyways, for some reason, and I see that all over the place. I see people that are attention-seeking on social media. They just want, somebody to hold their hand and tell them it's okay. And it's like, look, I get it. We all need to be reaffirmed. It's not the way to do it on social media. Anyways, whatever. So for some reason, I saw this post, and it legitimately bothered me. I saw this post. This must have been maybe 3 or 4 hours ago, maybe at least 2 hours ago. I think it might have even been 3 or 4 hours ago. And it made me think. And essentially, the post was a sequence of it was a picture of her and a sequence of various statements, I guess, about herself or whatever. And for me, I got the vibe this was genuine and not attention-seeking. And I firmly believe that while people are caught up in their own bullshit, and myself included, I'm certainly not an angel. Every now and again, I feel like people are just willing enough, just for a moment, to really just, let it all hang out, so to speak, or just to be entirely honest. And personally, myself, I use the guise of sarcasm to kind of help me, and sometimes I'll be brutally honest, using sarcasm as a way of kind of sneaking it into standard conversation. But I feel as though when this girl made this post, it was 100% genuine. I can't put my finger on it. Like I said, I've never met this girl. I don't know her from a freaking can of paint. Never met her in my life. Might not even recognize her if we walked past each other on the street, right? But for some reason, this really struck a chord with me. So I got out of bed. After not being able to fall asleep for about an hour and a half, got out of bed, made myself a nice cup of nighttime tea, and figured maybe if I talk my way through it, I'd be able to kind of understand, and that would put my brain to rest. Because, I think a lot. Why it is that A, this is bothering me so much, and B, why is it that this individual, who, mind you, I don't know, this is 100% subjective and based upon my observations as most certainly a third-party individual, why is it that she's going through her crisis? So I took some brief notes, and this is literally, the level of throwing this together. I decided that I was going to do this and actually got on here and started recording within a matter of probably 10 minutes. So there's going to be a lot of pauses and stuff in between. I did pretty much zero preparation. I took these notes on an empty, or a letter, just like a letter that I had opened. But anyways, I digress. I took a handful of notes, and I'm just going to do my best to extrapolate on what I've gathered based upon her post and my third-party experiences on whatever. This is quite certainly something I've never done before, but like I said, I couldn't put my finger on why this bothered me so much, so I decided to do something different, and hopefully, again, talking through it will help me understand a little better. So anyways, adjust my mic here. All right, the first note I have here on this lovely M&T Bank statement is happiness and meaning, the correlation between the two. And then in parentheses, I put temporary happiness, which I'm assuming had something to do with the post. I don't have in front of me. My phone's over there charging because it's ready to die. So let's kind of extrapolate on the concept of happiness and my experience with happiness. I found that happiness is something that just is fleeting. It comes and goes. And happiness is, so in the world, there's yin and yang, two forces that are trying to balance one another out. Happiness and sadness, or even good and bad, right? Good and evil, chaos and order. Nature has a way of balancing itself out. Our bodies go through a process of homeostasis, which is keeping everything in order. And I believe that it's a common motif in nature as well as storytelling, that there is a balance between good and evil, chaos and order, etc. So where does happiness play into this? In order for there to be happiness, there has to be a counterbalance for happiness, right? And of course, that would be sadness. Although there are multiple, happiness is, I believe, unique because there are multiple negative emotions that are countering happiness. So what do I mean by that? Well, you can be happy, you can be sad, you can be angry, you can be resentful, you can be anxious, you can be depressed. There are so many negative emotions for that one positive emotion of happiness. So where does happiness fit into our lives, right? Happiness is something that you should take advantage of when you get it. It's going to come and it's going to go. And while you got it, enjoy it while you got it. Now, there's a great public intellectual out there by the name of Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, who's written 2 different books that focus specifically on meaning as a important pursuit in the world as opposed to happiness. And I've found that in my life, pursuing meaning has brought me better balance, better homeostasis, better happiness, and just an overall improved quality of life, as opposed to just pursuing happiness. Now, happiness is divisive. Happiness is fleeting. Meaning is more permanent, I guess. So what does this mean to me? When I pursue meaningfulness, I'm attempting to overcome something. I'm attempting to be the best version of myself. I'm attempting to identify problems. And I'm attempting to do my best to fix them. I try and get a little bit better every day. That's the point of me dieting, eating healthy foods, trying to eat my vegetables as much as I fucking hate them. trying to eat lean meats, trying to stay away from shit that's bad for me, which is another one that I'm going to get into. Stop doing things that are fucking bad for you. But, you know, it's an improvement, right? And it's like, you don't just wake up one day and decide, hey, I'm going to be the greatest race car driver of all time, and then all of a sudden you're Mario Andretti. No, you get in the fucking car, you put the seat time in, you bust your ass, blood, sweat, tears, many nights of sleeping half as many hours as you should, you know, and at times not wanting to do it, but getting out there and fucking doing it anyways. And meaningfulness for me specifically manifests itself in overcoming obstacles. So the most recent example of this is me challenging myself and taking some difficult classes. Classes that I know that I'm not going to be good at, classes that I know I need improvement in. And one that I think I'm going to get into a little bit later was me deciding to take a public speaking class, which was both the worst thing and greatest thing I've ever done simultaneously. But challenging yourself and overcoming those challenges. Don't pursue happiness. Happiness is going to come and go. No matter what you do in your life, no matter how hard you work or how little you work, happiness will come and go. But meaning is much more permanent, and overall in the aggregate leads to a greater and more improved quality of life. I'll move on to my next bullet point here. I saw something in there about reciprocal respect. May have been a relationship-related thing. Again, I don't have my phone in front of me. I literally just have my chicken scratch notes. I want to talk about reciprocal respect here. And this kind of ties into what I was saying before about stop doing shit that you know is bad for you. Stop hanging out with people that you know are bad for you. Stop hanging out with fucking bums. You know? Don't just don't do it. Do you hang out with people who shoot heroin? No. Why don't you hang out with people who shoot heroin? Because they're fucking bums. This is coming from little old drug addict, improper philosopher, or clean drug addict now, sober drug addict now, improper philosopher. I don't hang out with people who do drugs. Do you want to know why? Because I don't want to do fucking drugs. I don't hang out with people who have negative mindsets. Why? Because I don't want to have a negative mindset. Everybody you surround yourself with is a reflection of you. Now let's expound further, right? So what do you want to be, and who do you see yourself as being? You answer that question, you can answer who you should be hanging out with and the type of people you should seek to have in your life. And you can't be afraid to remove people in your life who do not match your vision. If I'm trying to stop doing drugs, it's probably not good for me to hang out around people who are doing drugs, right? Because regardless of how individual I am and how much I want to be myself, eventually they will rub off on you. And you rub off on them. But the likelihood of me getting 5 people who are using clean by hanging out with them, as opposed to 5 people who are using to get me to use, it's more likely that the 5 people will get me to use before I get the 5 of them clean. But anyways, I digress. So with mutual respect, it's very simple. I have a pretty small circle of friends. I'm particularly introverted. I don't like people. I don't trust people. I'm cynical. I've had a lot of betrayal in my friendships and romantic relationships. So yeah, that definitely leads to quite a bit of cynicism. Oh, this tea's so fucking good. Naturally, I'm generally distrusting of individuals. So for me, when I meet somebody new, they get a barrage of shit tests, and I decide, is this the kind of person that I can, see myself hanging out with and spending time with? Is this somebody who's productive for me in my life? Does this person respect me? Do they respect my ideas? Do we share common interests? Do we have a similar sense in humor? The whole concept, I've been thinking a lot about dating recently, and specifically dating pertaining to marriage or like long-term commitment dating. And really what it is just a trial and error. You find somebody, you might be physically attracted to them, at least a little bit, and you say, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. We seem close enough. And then you hang out with them a bunch of times, and then eventually you let each other know who you really are to the most core, basic level of yourself as a person. And then you decide whether or not you want to continue to be with them or move on to other people. And it's the same thing with friendships. It's just on a significantly abbreviated time frame. When you're dating somebody to marry them, that's a long-term commitment, right? If you are hanging out or you're looking for new friends, that's a significantly shorter term commitment, right? The idea is that theoretically, at any given time, you can walk away from your friends. If you decide to move away, if one of my buddies decides to move away in a week, certainly we won't stop being friends. But, if he's living in California and I'm living in Maryland, the idea that we're going to be hanging out and super tight all the time is just not realistic. There's no time constraint. There's no expectation of longevity, and which can be a good and a bad thing, but I digress. So, yeah, surround yourself with people who want the best for you, and this kind of ties into another one. Don't surround yourself with people who are yes men, or with people who are constantly just telling you how great you are and blowing smoke up your ass. I always tell my friends, a lot of my very close friends, and even my girlfriend will tell you that I tell them on an often basis, if I'm fucking up, tell me I'm fucking up. And if you're fucking up, expect me to tell you you're fucking up. I've had a couple times where I've called my friends up on the phone or said to my friends, pulled them aside and said, hey man, I'm going to tell you right now, this whole situation with blah, 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 X, Y, and Z that's going on, it's bullshit. You need to stop fucking up. Get your shit together. There's a friend of mine, Otto, who I ride with pretty often and see from time to time. And he was in a situation a while ago with a girlfriend. And he was not doing the right thing. He was not being the man of the situation. He was not handling it well. And I told him, I called him up on the phone. I was still at work. I was smoking a cigarette. And I said, Otto, what are you doing right now? And he said, nothing. I said, well, I need to talk to you about how you're fucking up and how you need to do something about this situation in your life. And we had a long conversation about it. And he did the right thing at the end of the day. And he's a better man for it. And I'm a better man for it too, because I had enough gumption. I had enough, I had the proper morals about me to call him out and say, listen, you're my homie, but first and foremost, my job is to look out for you. And that means even when you're fucking up or making mistakes. So you shouldn't surround yourself with people who are constantly telling, oh yes, you're perfect, you're this, you're that. No, surround yourself with people who don't fucking lie to you. Surround yourself with people who challenge and critique you. And that goes for everything. That goes for your place of business. You should never, ever work where you're the smartest person in the room or people are blowing smoke up your ass. No, never that. Never that. Always be open to critique. At school, challenge yourself. Don't take bullshit easy classes. Why the fuck? So you can get a credit? No. That's ridiculous. Don't live your life like that. Don't fucking coast by. Don't skate by. That's ridiculous. And with your circle of friends, don't fucking accept mediocrity. It's only going to hurt you if your friends are mediocre and you have mediocre expectations for your friends. That's only going to blow back on you, and it's a short-term thing where you feel good because nobody calls you out on your bullshit. But in the long term, it's going to hurt you because eventually you're gonna remain stagnant and complacent, and you're going to be doing the same things and making the same mistakes, hanging out with the same bums. And then how does that reflect back on you? How does that benefit you in the long run? Goes back to like the difference between happiness and meaning. Happiness is that ignorant bliss, right? When you're hanging out with your friends and everybody kind of knows that you're fucking up or doing something wrong, but nobody says anything about it. So that's happiness. That's short-term gratification. That's feeling good right now, right this second. As opposed to meaning, which is the long term. And taking that uncomfortable, hey bro, you're fucking up, get your shit together, stop doing this, it's ridiculous. And swallowing your pride and admitting that you're wrong and then correcting it. That is the difference between happiness and meaning, in my opinion. That is the difference between getting better and just getting by. I'm 23 years old. I made a lot of mistakes. I did the jail thing. I did drug addiction. I crashed a fucking motorcycle at high speed running from the police. I've had my fair share of trials, tribulations, and stupid fucking shit I've done. And what I'm here to tell you is that from somebody who's and again, I'm 23, I'm pretty damn young. For somebody who's had as many stupid major mistakes and lived their life in such a bullshit, just lazy, dishonest, disingenuous, just gross in general and unacceptable way, I can tell you that, if you are willing to put the work in, the quality of your life can increase exponentially. And it's about what you're wanting to put into it. But anyways, I'm going to jump into the next point because I don't want this to be a 4-hour talk. I'm already at about 20 minutes. Another sip of my tea here. Oh, this is a good one. She also posted about her Instagram influence, being that she has, thousands of people who follow her on Instagram. Here's the thing, and this all ties into the people that you surround yourself with. Unfortunately, when you're Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, the vast majority of people who are trying to insert themselves into your life, the people that are trying to move into your circle and become a part of your circle, unfortunately, probably want something out of you. This is where, and I hate the idea of like identity. You're a man, I'm a man, you're a woman, whatever. This is where I'm kind of thankful I'm a dude, because I don't have women that are trying to be nice to me just to fuck me. And if they were, they'd be doing me a favor. You know what I mean? And this is an example of that, right? So you don't have to be Brad Pitt to have people walk into your life and attempt to use you for whatever. When you're an Instagram model, A, you're physically attractive. Okay, that's number one. So you're a pretty girl. Number two, you have influence. You have followers, and people crave followers like I craved oxycodone. They want it. They need that validation. They love to see those likes pop up on their screen, So this is an idea that I've tried to kind of explore a bit more, and in doing some writing as well, for one of my classes that I took not too long ago, about it was a sociology class, so basically how human beings interact. And this is an idea I've tried to extrapolate on is, why do people feel the need to, quote unquote, be in bed with or be in good with people who are famous or have influence, or even who are pretty or just physically attractive, male or female? But I digress. And this is me speaking directly to theoretical Instagram girl who is definitely not listening to this because I have like 3 subscribers. You're a pretty girl. You have influence. People want to be around you. And as unfortunate, as shitty as it is, those simple facts lead to most people that come into your life are going to want to use you for something, right? And it's a sad, I wish it wasn't that way for anybody ever. And I'm naturally distrusting, so I feel your pain. But you just gotta keep your ears up, man. You have to pay attention. Pay attention to the little shit people say. If people are telling you to post or shout them out on Instagram or post pictures of them and tag them on Instagram, there's a pretty good possibility that they're looking for fame. If guys are sliding in, they're trying to talk to you and complimenting you ridiculously and whatever, trying to get you to go out to parties and get you drunk. I mean, they're probably trying to fuck you. Like, I'm sure that most people are smart enough to see through that bullshit. But yeah, people, when you're in a position of power or you're in a position of influence or you're wealthy, people are going to try and enter your circle because of your place in the social hierarchy of the world. If you're above them, they're going to want to be at your level, and they're going to use you as a stepping stone to get to that level. It's one of the unfortunate truths of society in general. And it would be the same way if Brad Pitt calls me up one day and says, hey, bud, we should start hanging out. What the fuck am I going to say no? Like, I'm going to go to fucking California and do whatever the fuck Brad Pitt wants me to do so I can be a millionaire. Like, you're out of your fucking mind if you think that you would do the other thing. You know, you would say, no, well, screw you, Brad Pitt. Like, come on. So anyways, on to the next point. Ooh, impossible to be confident. This is a good one. This is a very good one. Confidence comes with competence. Confidence comes with competence. What does that mean? You will be confident if you are good at something. And let me give you an example of this. I train, for those who do not know, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is grappling. Think wrestling, submissions, arm bars, chokeholds, stuff like that. And Muay Thai, which is striking, kickboxing, knees, elbows, all that fun stuff. So the two basic staples of like mixed martial arts or UFC fighting, if you will, to put it in layman's terms. When I go somewhere in public, I have no problem standing up to somebody now. If somebody cuts me in line, I'm at the movie theater. You know, the prime example, I'm at the movie theater with my boys. Somebody comes up and cuts us in line. I already assume, number one, that they didn't see me there. It wasn't intentional, you know, whatever. No problem. I'll politely tap them on the shoulder and say, excuse me, sir or miss, you know, I was standing in line. Could you get behind me? I was here first. As opposed to who I was before I had ever done any kind of physical combat training. Any kind of combat sports at all. I was a different person. I just let it go. Well, whatever, I don't care. So what does that mean? In the face of potential conflict and the likelihood of a street fight breaking out, especially when I'm being polite, is like next to nothing. But in the face of potential conflict, I know that I could probably wrap this guy up and choke him out if I needed to. I mean, it sounds cocky, it sounds arrogant, but that's the simple fact of the matter. I train combat sports, the other guy probably doesn't. So I have no problem confronting him. And the worst case scenario is we're in a situation where I am better equipped than he is to handle the situation. So with competence brings confidence. When you're good at something, when you're competent at something, when you're good at something, that's going to bring you a certain level of confidence. And when you develop yourself as a person, that brings confidence as well. So I just spoke about a specific situation where learning how to fight has made me comfortable in potentially physical altercations. I want to go back to what I was talking about with public speaking. I've always felt very uncomfortable talking to people. I'm really bad at parties. You know, I've gotten a lot better, but I used to really be bad at parties. And I decided, okay, so if I'm bad at something, in order for me to get better at it, I have to do it. No shit, right? Makes sense. You want to, you know, get in shape, you go to the fucking gym. Hello. Like, duh. So, with that being said, you know, I went out of my comfort zone to do something I knew I was bad at and knew I was going to be bad at in order to get better at it so I would be more confident. So where does confidence come from for me? Confidence comes from my ability to do, or what I perceive my ability to do. I have made myself a more rounded person. I've become more honest. I've worked on myself. I found out what I like to do. I surround myself with people who are positive for me. I have a good support system. My family members, my friends, my coworkers, the people I go to school with, everybody around me is a generally positive individual. I have people I can talk to my hobbies about. I have hobbies. I'm physically active. I eat pretty healthy. I have a decently regular sleep schedule. All these things contribute to me as a whole human being, and that is what's helped me become more confident in myself. You know, and I'm going to give you an example that I've not experienced at all recently. But going out on a first date, if I had to go out on a first date, you know, again, for the first time in fucking forever, I'm confident that I'd be able to hold a conversation. And that sounds like such a simple, stupid thing, but here's what it comes down to. Essentially, if you're a rounded person, you have activities that you partake in, you are an interesting individual, the confidence comes with the territory. That's pretty simply it. So that's my bit on confidence. Trust and opening up. Okay, this is another good one. And I kind of touched on this before. With being in a position of influence and people wanting to quote unquote use you. Let me talk a bit about my personal life, and let me talk about myself. I am a generally distrusting person. I have to hang out with somebody a few times. I have to really spend, honestly, about 2 or 3 hours with somebody, pretty close to one-on-one, in a small group, to really get to know somebody and to see, before I even consider giving them my phone number, or saying, hey, bro, let's link up sometime or whatever. I'm generally distrusting. Well, why is that? I've had a lot of friends come and go, and specifically pertaining to, I can think of one specific friend. I was friends with him for maybe 7 years or so. Pretty good friends. I lived with the guy for a while. We were very, very tight for the vast majority of that 7 years. And when I needed him most, to be brief and not go into a whole 3-hour-long story, when I needed him most, he left me. I can think of multiple romantic relationships that I've been in the past that were toxic on 20 different levels, but specifically pertaining to abandonment, right? When I needed them, they left me. So what does this mean for me now? It means for me now that I'm generally distrusting of people. It's hard for me to open up. It's hard for me to tell you who I really am. And even still, a lot of people who have known me less than 6 months to a year, I don't want to say they don't know me, but they don't know me nearly as well as some of the people that I've known for years and years and years and years. It's difficult to trust people nowadays. And that's specifically based on my experience. I've had a lot of experience where people have done things that have caused me to distrust them, just generally speaking, and it's a recurring theme in my life, which has caused me to look more closely at the people that I associate with, number one, and the people that I trust, number two. And those are two different groups of people. I associate with a lot of people at my workplace. I do not trust a lot of people at my workplace. You follow? So yeah, with trusting people, man, take your time. Take your time. You get to decide how long it takes for this person to, quote unquote, pass your background check. You get to fucking pick. Why is there a rush? Why is there a rush to trust somebody or to get to know somebody? That's kind of silly. And you can trust people at different levels. It's not just all or nothing. I trust certain people with certain things. There are a lot of people who do not know anything about my past history with drugs and alcohol, or my past history with the legal system, or a bunch of other things. And I'm saying this from anonymity. Improper Philosopher is not obviously my fucking name. So it doesn't particularly matter that I say it on this channel. You guys don't know who the fuck I am in real life. You don't know where I live. You don't know where I go to school. Whatever. So that's my my little spiel on trust, man. And trust is not something I can speak very well on because, like I said, I'm a generally distrusting individual. So it's kind of hard to kind of drop some knowledge, so to speak, on trust and wisdom pertaining to trust. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel on that, man. Take your time. Just, really get to know somebody. Consider it, a trial, and don't make it a trial by death. But, feel them out. If they're saying shit that's not adding up, think about it. Don't just blow it off. If somebody tells me something and I find out that it's not the case later, or I suspect it's not the case later, or they slip up and say, oh, I was doing this, and then they slip up later and they say, oh, on the same day at the same time they were doing something different, I pay attention to that shit, man. Like, if you lied to me, you lied to me, If you're going to lie to me about something small, you're probably going to lie to me about something big. That's the way I look at it, So take your time with trust, man. There's no rush with that shit. Yeah, I got 2 more points here. Shyness. This kind of ties into confidence, so this will be a quick one. Generally speaking, people who are introverted, it is easier for them to get over shyness when they are a more developed person. I'm pretty shy myself. I'm not very outgoing. I don't go out to people to engage them and discuss things with them. I just kind of like, whatever. If we're in a room or we're in a social gathering, I stick to my people, and maybe I'll find an in point to talk to somebody. Somebody's wearing a t-shirt, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, whatever, Corvette t-shirt, or you do jiu-jitsu, that's awesome, I do jiu-jitsu, whatever. But for the most part, I kind of keep to myself. Shyness is a personality trait. So there's the big 5 personality traits. And introversion and extroversion are parts of that. So it's largely ingrained in who you are genetically and who you've become as a function of your experience in your life. So nature versus nurture in psychology. But largely speaking, introversion, extroversion, or shyness, or outgoingness, whatever, is largely ingrained in your personality. So that's not, generally speaking, that's not something you can change. You can work on it, and certainly as a function of anxiety. Again, wanting people to like you, anxiety and shyness all go hand in hand. Seeking approval, which is my next point, and I have so much to fucking say about that, and I'm so excited. But yeah, shyness is part of your personality. So it's something you have to work on. But it can only, just realize it can only improve so much. If you're shy, you're probably going to continue to be decently shy for the most part. You can kind of break out of your shell a little bit. You can get a little bit better at reading people, reading their body language, stuff like that. Seeing if they're receptive to what you're saying. Things of that nature can all be, some psychology and stuff like that can all be integrated into who you are as a person. And that can help break free of shyness. So the last thing that I would like to address here is worrying about what people think. And this is my last point. And that will take this podcast out. Worrying about what people think. I'm going to tell a funny story because I don't really give a fuck. This is a bad one. This is a doozy. I need a sip of tea. More like a gulp. Okay. How I began to break free of my, and I'm still struggling with it, by the way, but how I began the process of breaking free of my personal discomfort with wanting people to like me and wanting people to accept me. Again, part of it is looking for meaning in your life and developing yourself as a person. That will improve every single aspect of your life more than you could ever imagine. Find hobbies you like doing. Find a job that you like doing. Find a job that gets you good money. You make decent money. Find some meaning in your life. Find out what you want to do with your life and fucking just go do it. Just go get it. Find out what you have to do. Do you have to make a phone call? Whatever. But all that I've already covered. Bring it back. It's late. Okay, so there was a period of in my adult life where my parents had kicked me out of my house, and I was living with a friend in his basement. It's a funny story. So when I was living with this friend back in the day, as I said, I'm abstinent now. We did a lot of drinking and we did a lot of smoking back in the day. We did a lot of other shit too, but mostly drinking and smoking. And one night, we were at the house, and it was like, I mean, it was early in the night. It was probably like 8 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday. I don't remember. It was a weekend, and we were sitting around smoking reefer and shooting the shit. One of my buddies comes over, and he pulls out, much to my surprise, he pulls out a fat bag of mushrooms. Now, that to me is like player 3 has entered the fucking game. Okay, let's get jiggy. So, long story short, I had my first and only mushroom trip. And that is a situation where I was able to explore myself. And I smoked like an eighth of weed during this, I think it was like a 5 or 6 hour trip, and like a pack and a half of cigarettes. But I really just kind of sat there to myself and listened to music and thought about my life and reflected on myself. And one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've ever had in my entire life was during that trip, when I realized that I take myself way too fucking seriously, and I care too much about what people think about me. You know, think about how many people have come and gone in your life. You know, how many people have been around for the past 5 years of your life, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. For some of us that are younger, that's our whole life. 30 years, 40 years, 50 years for some of us that are older. How many people have remained that long? Very few, right? So, why do you give a fuck about what people think about you that have not been in your life as a permanent fixture? Your parents, sure, you should give a fuck what they think about you, because they're your fucking parents, number one. And number two, they're older and wiser, and they know you very well, which means they probably know what's best for you, and blase, blase, blase. So, anyways, why the flying fuck do you care about what people think about you? People who are going to come and go. People who do not write your paycheck. People who do not give you love and affection. People who are not your significant other. People who are not very close friends. People who are not your family. People that you're not fucking. Why do you care what these people think about you? You know, why do you give a fuck? I think that for some of us, it largely stems with it coincides with an anxiety that you are not good enough, or self-esteem issues, or, you know, just general feelings of not being good enough or inadequacy, whatever. So when you're naturally an anxious person and you have low self-esteem, that makes you a people pleaser. It makes you want to go above and beyond for people. It makes you want people to like you. It might make you willing to do things that you normally wouldn't be willing to do to get people's approval. You know, if you look inside, and it's hard to do in the moment when you're spun up and you feel uncomfortable and whatever, but if you really take a second and sit the fuck down and think about it, how much do these people impact your life? And if the answer is, you know, not they impact my life a lot, don't give a fuck about what they think about you. Because if you live your life based on what other people think about you, you're not living your life for you. You're living your life for somebody else. And last time I checked, you only get one life, and you're only put on this earth for so long. So if you don't get busy living, you better get busy dying. So just a handful of ramblings from the Improper Philosopher. You know, life's not easy, man. It's not. It sucks a lot of the time, and you have to do a lot of shit that you don't like doing. But there are a couple things that you can do to make your life a lot better. Stop fucking with lame people. Stop doing shit that you know is bad for you. Stop putting harmful things in your body. Stop living your life for other people. Stop seeking other people's approval. Set your day up so it is a day that you would like to take place or to carry out, or a day that you would like to have. You know, don't just do shit you hate. Go out, find some fucking hobbies. Develop yourself as a person. Do things that challenge you. and that give you meaning in the world. And maybe, just fucking maybe, your life turns around and gets a little bit better. And I want to leave this one last segment here, because we're roughly 45 minutes in as of right now. I challenge people out there to be in the present for a little while. Shut your phone off. Be in the present. Do this, even if it's a quick thing. Turn your phone on Do Not Disturb mode. You don't want to receive a single notification. Put some music on. Go for a drive. An hour, 2 hours, anywhere. Doesn't matter where you're going. Doesn't matter if you're driving through the city. Doesn't matter if you're driving through the countryside. Doesn't matter if you're driving on the highway. It does not matter. Put your music on, clear your mind, and just fucking drive. Just be in your body. Listen to the music. Watch the road ahead of you. Feel the car, the bump, the vibrations. Just take it in and be present in that moment. Almost like meditation. I challenge you to meditate or to be in your body or disconnect from all the bullshit in the world on a consistent basis. That's my challenge to you. Start to think about yourself. What are you good at? What are you bad at? How can you improve? And I promise you, your life will get better. Your quality of life will improve. It does not matter who you are, what culture you're from, what state you're from, male, female, gay, straight, transgender. You could identify as a fucking Apache attack helicopter or an Xbox for all I care, okay? Your quality of life will improve. If you are mindful, if you are present, and if you work on being better than you were yesterday, physically, mentally, spiritually, your quality of life will improve. With all that fun stuff being said, I'm running out of shit to talk about because all this was off the top of the dome. But that being said, I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far, consider leaving a like, sharing this wonderful information with people around you. If you really, really liked it, you can subscribe. I do a whole bunch of podcasts. I talk about stupid shit, ridiculous things, from cars to my old ridiculous stories to serious things like this. But this was something that was bothering me enough that I had to ramble on about it for, almost an hour. But with that being said, my name is Max. You might know me as the Improper Philosopher, and I'm signing off. I'll catch you guys on the next one.